traffic cars. These are or police cars, these are either the best thing to happen to a policeman or a traffic officer, or one of the worst things. Say when you come on shift, the officers run to the keyboard most of the time to get the best cars off the board. No one wants to be driving the jalopy. No one wants to drive the loner, so to speak, because all the good cars are smashed up and the recovery garage has brought some loners in. So my cars, the best car I've ever had, traffic car, the best car I've ever had, 2.8 twin turbo Vectra called Christine. She was called Christine because there's a film out that's in the 70s called Christine, which is a car possessed by the devil. And I used to get in the car, people are going to look at me and think I'm a nut job. Well, technically I am a nut job, I've got issues, but they're going to think that the car's just an object, but it's not. When you're driving a car at such a fast speed, or you're driving a car in such a high-risking job, you've got to have faith in that car. And I always thought that car were always there looking after me, and I were looking after it. So it got an extra polish. It sometimes went on V plus power, fuel, and that sort of thing. It were always clean. It were always looked after. Back where I was at. And I always thought that when I did that, the car would go, cheers, Ben. Thank you very much. So that was my favourite car. Now, I don't know if you can put a picture up here, just in the top box there, of the car. But the car was phenomenal to drive. It was so quick, it run through, but the power through the gearbox, the way it positioned on the road, the way it looked, people saw it and thought, hang on a minute, this is a mean car. How it sounded when you went past, blitzing past people with its V6 engine, it was absolutely fantastic. The worst car I got given were a Vauxhall Signum. In West Yorkshire Police, whoever bought the Signums, you should be ashamed of yourselves because they were absolutely appalling. If you don't know what a Signum is, it's the cross between a Vectra and an Astra. It serves no purpose. Someone just thought, let's make an Astra a Vectra and let's make a Vectra a little bit smaller. It were a 3 litre and it couldn't pull skin off custard. It were absolutely horrendous. It was slow, it didn't handle well, it were crap. When we came in, and say John run to keyboard and got his T5 out, and then Phil run or Dave run and got the VXR out, and then I run in a bollocks. Fucking Sigmund sat there, isn't there? So I took keys out and then got in it, and he kind of like when you drive through like Keeper Town Centre, all badasses would be like, look, it's in Signum, it's in Signum. There were no kudos and no street cred with it. I remember being in Pursuit with I think it was a Toyota Corolla 1.6, and it struggled to keep up even though it was 3 litre. It was just pointless as a traffic car. My first car, which again there should be a picture going up, is one of these kind of Astras, and it was I think it was a 98 on an R-Edge, and it was a 1.4 petrol Astra. It was what they call a jam sandwich, where it was just 2 stripes on the side with police badge in it, single light on roof. And there's this thing now that when you're in a police car now, you've got LED strobes, so when it's in, it's just going, and that's all you can hear. So you can see scenes, and it's just, where when it first it roared, you see it kind of whoa, 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 because it was the sound of the rotor going round in the blue light on the top. So you'd set off in this little Astra, and it was that bad it only had 3 wheel trims. Always front wheel trim were missing, because you'd be going around corners, and as you go around the tight left, this wheel trim would just come off and go straight down the road. So no matter how much the tyre rocked on, they never stayed on. And the siren were really, really pathetic. Woo, woo, woo. Whoa, 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 in car. And it had one button on the dashboard that just did blue lights. That's all it was. I got that, but when I got that, I just passed my initial driving test for the police, and they were the newer Mark, I can't remember if it was Mark 5 or Mark 6 Astras that everyone were getting. So they were all the experienced beat cops had, and I had to have the loaner, so to speak. But I got in it, I got the blue lights on, I got my car, and it's when you first get your set of wheels and your first licence in a police car, it's absolutely fantastic. You can't it's like when you pass your driving test when you're a kid, but you now get to go through traffic lights, you now get to break speed limits and go wrong side of traffic bollards and do what you need to do. And then that steps up, because every year you come in, the cars change and you get a little bit more wool on your back, and then you're in line for the new car. Same when you start out traffic, you start out at bottom at run, so you always get the bags of crap at a day when all the best bobbies have taken out the best cars. But then when you're in for a certain amount of time, if you've got the rubbish car, pretty soon your rubbish car goes and you get the new car. And I remember when VXR came and I walked outside and my old sergeant went, "This is your new car." And I must have spent about an hour looking at it. I just couldn't believe it. I was driving that road, and even though I've been in, I think I've been in probably 8 or 9 years or something like that, I was still driving past shop windows with my arm inside the car, like, looking at myself through shop windows. That car were awesome. Christine were absolutely awesome, and it was best. It's got me out of so many scrapes. It got me out. It fit through junctions, and it fit through gaps that I never thought a car could fit through. There's a lot of times when I was going into roundabouts and I've closed sort of my eyes thinking, "Christ, this is going to hurt." And the cars literally got round, and that's why I used to call her what I called her, because I always thought there's something a little bit more in this car that's deciding where it wants to drive. When we went on to BMWs, that felt like you were you'd made it in theory. You couldn't get any higher of a car because you're driving around in a BMW. It's automatic, which is a lot easier. It's not an automatic 1993 car where it's changing and going ooh and jerking through gears. It's a proper slick pursuit vehicle, and I used to be able to drive it faster on paddle shift than what I used to be able to do with the normal sport mode. They were great cars. They just didn't like speed bumps. They didn't like snowy, rainy, slippery weather, and I do miss being behind wheel. I do miss blue lighting, but it's time to move on, and it's all down to everyone else now. So I hope the traffic lads that are getting all the new cars now appreciate what we've had to go through with the shit to get all the good cars that we've got now. So I think I was lucky they're not driving a 2.4 single turbo Volvo, where when it was getting blue light down bypass, there were actually cars going past it. I think at one point the Nissan Micra went past a Volvo when it was blue light and it was that slow. So I think I was lucky.
When you get into work, was it literally a first come first serve, or did you each have you had a car?
When you got into, no, when you got it worked on different ways and depending what sergeants got on. So it'd get to some points and you'd be allocated your car. So I'd be on an early shift and I'd have my car allocated. Just say, for instance, you'd be on a late shift, you'd be taking my car over so you know what's in it, who's responsible, if there's any damage, who's caused it. And then same for nights, so the car would always be used. But then there were certain cars then that were getting, within 2 years, getting nearly 100,000 miles on them. And there were other cars then that hadn't been used with 20,000 miles that were 3 years old. So what they did is they made it where it was a district car. So wherever that district got covered, that's what car was in that district. But it started getting a bit hard work because if you were in Keighley and you were at potential fail and you came on late, your Keighley car went there, you took a Bradford car. So then Bradford Bobby would come in and there'd be no Bradford car, so you'd take Halifax car. And then it'd be a clusterfuck basically. But now, before I left, the cars were allocated then per night sergeant to everyone there, and you got what you got and you had to suck it. Now more or less the cars are all even, but when we've got single turbo Volvo, a plain VXR, a marked VXR, and then probably a BMW. There were obviously you can see there were a fight for all keys, and there were certain people who got the same sort of keys all the time. And I will say, yeah, I got my keys a lot, and I never went without my baby. We've launched a Patreon channel. If you want to help out, please see the link below. Thank you.